quickly as possible. I'll pick on somebody. Ken, that includes you. Okay, this is, we're really glad to see you all here tonight. The size of our crowd for a short thing. I'm Bob Campbell, if you don't know, I'm president of ESLA, and we have been interested in bringing Leslie in since she is now she gets into that dam and just turns those turbines, you know, keeps them going. And I don't know if you all know how fortunate we are to have this dam. I didn't realize it when we bought our property in 2011, how important that dam is, that we've got the federal government saying the water depth can vary only by, somebody knows it, 6-7 inches, 8 inches. And if you've ever been up during big swings in water depths out here to a place like Lake Charlevoix, you should be really happy you're on this watershed. So I wanted to have all the ESLA board members just stand up so you kind of know who's here and representing us very well. All right. George Seafried, our vice president, has been working with Leslie and on these issues that we're going to be talking about tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you, Bob. Well, good evening, everyone. Good distinguished guests, normal members. We have some of the folks here from the county. You better be very polite tonight and very careful, okay? We have township folks here, village folks here, so we're so glad that you could all make it, because this is a very, very important topic. A little of the history, and maybe I'm stealing a little bit of Leslie's thunder, but this is hopefully a completion of a study that started several years ago on the entire chain of lakes, the upper and lower chain of lakes. And so this piece that we're going to be talking a little bit about tonight is basically the completion of the hydrology and the storm water studies all the way from Bel Air all the way down here to Elk Rapids. It's a very important topic. At one of the last meetings, I talked about the planning that's been going on at both the county, local levels to look at what happens with these extreme storm events that we've been having. And I mentioned that the dam, I think it was called the Edenville Dam down in Midland, which was just a disaster for everyone involved down there. It's the kind of thing that you need to think about, you need to plan about, and look at what the options are. And we're fortunate that Leslie, who I think I'll introduce you a little bit. You're a lifelong resident of Michigan. Went to school, I won't say how many years ago, and started in planning. But she has held positions with the county in emergency management, which this is just a great opportunity for the rest of us to pick on her experience and use that as we go forward. So I think your career has been in planning, zoning, emergency management, just about anything associated with government service. Is that right?
That is true.
Yeah, and I think when we talked earlier this week, you might have a story or two to share with us, right? So please welcome our guest tonight, our speaker, Leslie Meyers, our Antrim County Operator of Dams and Drain Commissioner.
Thank you. The cute little story is I went to college on the 13-year plan. We decided to have children and buy a house and do all of those other things, so college took a little bit longer. I was 22 years old when we bought our first house, and we had 2 small children. And I answered an ad in the newspaper that they were looking for volunteers for boards and commissions in the village where I was living. So of course I pulled out my typewriter and tried to write a letter of interest. And I found myself at 22 as the member of the planning commission in a small village. And 4 months later, I went to the bathroom during the meeting and I came back and found out I was chairman. So needless to say, I changed my major somewhere there in the mid-'80s and went to Michigan State for a degree in urban and regional planning. And the rest is history, and life has really taken me in some really interesting directions. As George said, I spent most of my career as a planner, municipal planner, and somehow I found myself as the Antrim County Emergency Manager in 2014, and it was a fairly simple job. I'd been working with fire and police and all of those other organizations my entire career because of the planning aspect of it. So it wasn't that much of a jump, and technically emergency management's filling out a lot of government forms, and I have a lot of government experience, so I should do that well. And it was a part-time job, and so I was able to spend time with my grandchildren and do some other things, and then COVID hit. And I found ourselves in a community with no hospital, no Walgreens, no Rite Aids, nothing, and we had to do something. So I may have met some of you at the clinics that we did at the Alden Community Center or the Helena Township Community Center. And I'll have to tell you, it kicked my butt. It was really, really hard. It was very divisive politically, and I was always used to divisiveness. You work in politics your whole entire life. You know, it is divisive, but I was tired. And I was thinking of just retiring. And Mark and I sat down, Mark Stone, for those of you that may have met him before, we sat down and had a talk, and he said, Leslie, with all of your experience, he says, I think you could do this. He says, I'm not an engineer. So one thing as a planner you get to do is you get to bring in the professional engineer. He says, no, I think you can do it. You've met most of everybody in the Lake Association. I spent about 7 years as the executive director for 3 lakes. And he said, you know most of those people, you can do this. I said, okay, so good news is I'm back to a part-time job. And we'll go from there. So what I thought I would do today, if you came for highly technical engineering information, you can go now. But after this is over, if you would like somebody to come talk to you about that nitty-gritty, I'm all for it. I will find those people for it. Happen to have the president of the 3 Lakes Association in the audience right now, Fred, and Fred's pretty good with some of that engineering stuff. He wanted to help me with my presentation today, and I said no, because I knew he'd get me to put something in there I couldn't explain. So I decided to stick with what I know. And basically we're going to talk today a little bit about what 2 job responsibilities that I have, what they are, and what I'm responsible for. We're going to talk about a little bit about the watershed that we're all in. We're going to talk about what has happened thus far with the HEC-RAS model, which is a modeling system for hydrology. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about the results that just came out within the last 36 hours from our continuum study. Hot off the presses, still in draft form, but there's enough that I can share with you. And then talk about what we need to do next and how we can all help and make that happen. So for those of you that are going to hear some things that you've heard over and over again, I apologize. So first responsibility I have is operator of dams. Everybody calls me the damn B word all the time. They think it's funny, we all laugh, because they don't say it out loud. My husband thinks it's fabulous, but basically what I do is I administer the dams department. I operate the Bel Air Dam on a regular basis. It's very interesting. I operate the Bel Air Dam, which maintains the levels for Intermediate Lake, and I base it all on a gauge that's 9 miles away. Anything I do at Bel Air Dam takes 24 hours before it shows on the gauge in Central Lake. So I call it trying to play a piano concerto and get the notes right. I'm doing pretty good this year. I supervise the operations at the Elk-Skegemog Dam. I don't do really much over there, other than make sure that the stock houses are doing the best job that they can, and they are doing a fabulous job. They stay in contact with me every day, and I'm over here about every 10 to 14 days. I don't have to do much, but I have to make sure that they follow through on what they do. I am the county administrator of the FERC license, and the FERC is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and they're the ones that allow us to have that hydro dam. They have some tough rules. You follow them, you do what they say, you like it or you lump it, kind of thing. And I am the contact person for lake levels. To date, I've had 3 phone calls since I've taken this job over, so I think I'm doing pretty darn good. And one of them was from one of my neighbors. I happen to live just south of the Bel Air Dam. So I am maintaining intermediate lakes level, not Bel Air's level or the intermediate river south of the dam. And they were yelling at me that they had to get into the water to push their boat out. And it happened to be one of our sheriff deputies. And I said, so Skylar, it's been raining a lot at your house, hasn't it? He says, no. I said, well then maybe that's why there's no water. And so now we're all good. But he knows that whatever's happening and affecting him is also affecting me, so that kind of helps too. But for the most part, it's been a pretty quiet year, which I thought with it being my first year, it wasn't going to be so easy. But the phone calls have been limited, but I'm back and forth from that dam like crazy because I don't understand how that concerto plays quite yet. It is a guessing game. So that's my one part of the job. That is my regular major job. Then let's get to the big dollar job I have. Oh, here's a picture of the 2 dams. You guys have seen this one, of course. And then this is the location of the Bel Air Dam. I stuck that in there, in case you guys didn't know. It's in our Richard I. Park. You can see the overflows there. It's not a hydro dam. It is just a spillway dam. And it used to be a hydro plant. And I don't know if any of you guys know this, maybe many of you do. The Bel Air Dam was originally created to provide power to the city of Charlevoix Stream. They ran 25 miles of lines to allow that to happen. And then come 1970, they didn't need it anymore. So they gave it to the county for $1. Wow, what a bunch of good guys. However, what it does do, and what's so important about it, I'll show you a quick picture of it. What is so important about it is it maintains the recreational opportunities for the north end and the north chain. Without that dam, there wouldn't be an intermediate lake, there wouldn't be Benway, there wouldn't be all of the lakes that are up there. So it has a very important purpose, and the county commissioners understand that, as well as all of the other elected officials throughout the county understand the importance of our dams and how much they provide just in recreation. Okay, let's be honest too, provide some tax base too. Okay, and also, besides those 2 dams that we have, every bridge throughout the chain is a constriction point too, and it acts like a dam. Something you might not have ever thought about, but when you take Torch Lake, all of a sudden you've got 19 miles of lake that all of a sudden stop at the Torch River Bridge. It acts like a dam. So each one of those bridges is just as important as a dam. We have to make sure that they're maintained, because heck, if we didn't have some of those bridges, can you just imagine the drive around? It's tough enough now. I mean, we all joke on April Fool's Day that, yep, they're building a bridge across Torch Lake. Some days you say, gosh darn it, I wish there was a bridge so it didn't take me 47 minutes to get where I need to go. But each one of those bridges is just as important as our dams too, so I have to look after them. As you all know, the Elk-Skegemog and the dam here has a court-ordered level, and it's got a summer level of 5.90 or 590.8, and a summer or winter level that takes it down so you guys can work on your shorelines. There's also one in Intermediate Lake. Amazingly though, they're not both done at the same datums. And we'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But I have ordered to keep those levels. I'm trying my butt off to do that in Bel Air, and I will tell you that the dam operators here are trying their best to do that as well. And it's come to the point now where they're not even being able to produce a lot of the energy that they would like to in order to maintain those levels on everyone's behalf. Now, not only, well, you guys are happy because the levels are staying fairly constant on the water, but the fishermen are just beside themselves. Because when those turbines stop, the fishing isn't as good anymore. So we've got to deal with those guys too. But again, it's all about recreation. So US datums. A datum is a surface to which elevations, heights, or depths on a map or chart are related. We are using vertical datums here. We care about that level and where it is. And sadly though, certain things that you read, you'll find that it's in the National Geodetic Vertical Datum of 1929. The Intermediate Lake Court Order is in that language. Then there's the NAVD 88. And the Central Lake Gauge that got put in, though, is based on that datum. And then there's this International Great Lakes datum that maintains right here, but not over there. And it's also, the Elk Rapids Court Order is based on that International Great Lakes datum. And they try to update it about every 25 to 30 years. But they forget to do some of the conversions along the way. So we're working on trying to find a good conversion method for us. Because we do have all of these different datums that are being thrown around. And then coming in 2027 for us is a brand new datum for the International Great Lakes. So I hope we can have something before that happens. Then I have this other title. It's an elected title, but it's probably the drain commissioner. I'm paid $650 a year to be the drain commissioner, so it's a big title, no bucks. But there's one county drain. There's no drainage district, there's no fees charged or anything, and it's right over on Birch Lake. And it deals with the neighborhood on Birch Lake and the township. So a drain commissioner oversees the county drains. They're responsible for administering the laws related to floodplain protection, stormwater management, which we've given to the Antrim County Conservation District to do for us. Soil erosion protection is another drain commissioner responsibility usually. We've also given that to the Antrim County Conservation District. Because years ago, there was a stipulation for counties under 12,000 people had the right to then farm some of that work out. That's what we did. And we've never taken it back because it's not broken. So the drain commissioner has a lot of authority though, and it's almost the forgotten elected official. They have the ability to assess the cost of draining work to the homeowners, to drainage districts. They have the ability to levy taxes without a vote of the people, without approval by the county commissioners. So I think I'm more powerful than the governor, but I'm not sure. But we're gonna circle back to those responsibilities and authorities that they do have a little bit later. Because at this point, I have no interest in doing any of those things. And I'm sure that those that put me into this position, because I was not elected to the position, my predecessor retired, and there was less than 2 years left in his term, so they were able to appoint someone. So I was appointed to this job. I guess though, since I wasn't elected, if I ever had to do something like this, it'd probably be the easiest way to get away with it, but I'm not gonna do that, I promise you. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about our watershed, and here's some little tidbits that you guys didn't know. Our watershed covers over 505 square miles. It reaches 4 counties. There are 200 miles of shoreline, 75 miles of waterway. There's 14 lakes, 7 rivers, and 200 streams that make that up. There's a 40-foot elevation drop from Beals Lake over in Echo Township to right here at this dam, at the tail races. There's a 40-foot drop, and it provides 60% of the fresh water to Grand Traverse Bay. Those are just some little fun facts you can take home with you and stick them out at the dinner table and look smart or something. Okay, so we're going to talk about the lead up to what's called the HEC-RAS model. And, upper chain water levels were maintained through about 2010 without any big issue. And then starting in 2012, it was next to impossible to maintain those levels. The storms started becoming more frequent. As my time as the emergency manager, I can tell you there hadn't been a tornado in Antrim County since probably the 80s. There was one in 2014 that was clipping up US 131. And right when it got to the Kalkaska line, it jumped up and went into the sky and we never saw it. But what have we had? 3 tornado sightings since 2018. We had the 2021 storm that blew out the Alden Highway. And for those of you that depend on the Alden Highway, it made getting around even harder when you didn't have the Finch Creek Alden Highway. So that was pretty interesting. So Mark Stone at the time said that something had to do, but we're having lots of property damage and soil erosion issues in the upper chain. So we wanted to look into some other options. So they started looking into doing some modeling. And first he created a lake level committee, and your lake association was involved. The Three Lakes Association was involved, the Torch Lake Protection Alliance, the Friends of Clam Lake, the Intermediate Lake, and the 6 Mile Lake. All of those people were involved in doing some studies, starting to take some measurements. If we were going to get serious about this, we had to start measuring our water levels. We couldn't say, well, remember in 2017 when the water was so high or the water was so low? No, we needed something to prove it. So all of the lake associations worked together and they put out some level loggers and they put out some rain gauges, and people got really interested in trying to understand this and chart this so we could provide some background information. Then Mark somehow stumbled across a partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers. And they decided to undertake the largest watershed project to date. And we were able to convince the County Board of Commissioners to put in 25% match. So the Army Corps of Engineers put in about $300,000 and $75,000 came from the County Board of Commissioners. And we had hundreds of hours of volunteer time with those level loggers, with those rain gauges, and created what's known as the HEC-RAS. And HEC-RAS means the Hydrologic Engineering Center's River Analysis System version 6.1. Should you wish more details, I'll bring someone in to talk to you more about it, I promise. But what it does is it models how rainfall lands and collects throughout our watershed. The lakes were modeled as storage areas, which makes kind of sense. That's where our water goes after a rain. The Bel Air impoundment, or our dam, and Craven Pond were modeled as reservoirs. And they had 4 alternatives that they put into this plan. And those alternatives talked about the Bridge Street culvert. There is a culvert up in Ellsworth called the Bridge Street culvert. And the Bridge Street culvert has the opportunity of becoming the Finch Creek Alden Highway issue at any given time. And sadly, the village of Ellsworth is not very flush with financial dollars to do anything at this time, so we're looking at opportunities to try to help them. We also know that it was put in on a dark, starry night, 1970 something, when nobody was looking, probably on a Sunday. And it's not part of the road commission's responsibility because it's in a village. And it is probably in one of our largest low to moderate income areas of the county, so we're looking at how we can help them too. Because on the other side of this Bridge Street culvert is 6 Mile Lake, Beals Lake, Scotts Lake, so there's 3 more lakes down there that are very dependent on this whole system. So they also added some alternatives into this model, and they had, again, the Bridge Street culvert, the Torch River, the Grass River, and the Intermediate River dredges. And I have some stars up there to mean that doesn't mean anybody was going to go dredging, but it was just a what if. What if we dredge those? How would this change the model? So then they ran the model for a 10%, 4%, 2%, 1%, and 0.02% rain event. What did that mean? A 10% rain event means that there's a 10% chance that it's going to happen in any given year. It's also known as a 10-year flood. And I'm sure you guys might be familiar with that. And there's the 4%. That is a 25-year flood. That doesn't mean it's going to happen once every 25 years. It means it can happen in any given year 25% of the time. We seem to be getting an awful lot of those these days around here too. Then our 2% flood is a 50-year storm. A 1% is a 100-year storm. And a 0.02% is a 500-year flood event. That's the big one. That's gonna hurt us all real bad. And when they got done with this model, all of the lakes and everywhere calibrated except for 6 Mile Lake within 6 inches, which is a real good plus or minus for a study. And it according to the Army Corps, for all of our purposes, it was an overall good representation of the system. Okay. Because we did the model, the information was shared with FEMA and was added to new flood maps are being created for the entire county. Where you guys are located on this side, the bay side of the county was already participants in the National Flood Insurance Program. The elected officials in those communities had taken the responsibility and care to get involved in this program early on. Back in the day, municipalities had to help create those maps, and it was very expensive to get into this program. Now, it's not that way. Now, FEMA is doing that work for you. So these new flood maps have now just come out in the review stages. They were given to us 3 weeks ago, the 9th of this month, and we're reviewing them. And they're due out in late 24 or early 25. And this is the 3rd project in Antrim County in 10 years, which tells you things are really changing here. As a matter of fact, the day that the flood happened that took out the Alden Highway, friends of ours over on Intermediate Lake lived down a small dirt road, of course, at the bottom of the hill, and 6 inches of mud went through their house. And by the time someone was able to get in, because it was their cottage, by the time someone was able to get in and realize what had happened, mold had overtaken the whole house, and they're not able to rebuild the house. And of course, health department rules have changed. They cannot get a standard system to run their sanitary system, and they're looking at taking their nice cottage, and they're probably looking at about a $600,000 rebuild for a cottage, and most of it is for infrastructure, which is really sad. So it is changing. What else happened with these new flood maps when they were unveiled to us on the 9th of this month? there's only one township in the whole entire county that will not be in the floodplain now, which is huge. We're going from 5 to 20, because there are 21 municipalities in the county. In my presentation, which I will make available for you guys to have on your website, or is the link that you can go and you can look and see where does your house fall. Sadly, if you're in Grand Traverse County or Kalkaska County, they didn't give me that information yet, but I'm sure that if you sent me an email, I'd be able to provide you with the link. I'll find somebody who has that link, but I only have the link for Antrim County's work. So there's the draft flood map. As you can see, it looks like there's more than just one missing, but remember Mazzalone is a double township. I don't know if many people knew that. So the only township that's not included in the new flood maps is Star Township. And you're not going to be able to see the houses, but if you go to the link that we'll be able to provide to you, you'll be able to look right in, zoom right in, and find your specific house.
So is the flood on the inside of the blues, or what is that?
All around the blues.
Okay.
That's
All
some
around.
kind of a water body or,
All around the blues.
yeah. And it's not showing really the lakes, but the lakes are underneath those blue lines. So then when the study came out in we realized that we still needed some more information. And so in 2022, the study was specific to the hydraulic capacities of the dams, because the original model didn't take the dams into consideration. It was just a constant flow through it. And so we needed to look at both those dams. And it was funded in partnership with the county, but Four Lake Association pitched in money too. So your Lake Association helped us with that study. The draft was received Wednesday at 4:30. So I've only gotten to do so much review of it, but I'm going to share what we do know and what I am able to let you know. So we know that the original model starting point was the legal water level. We know that it always can't be the legal level, but we tried. Additional modeling produced higher volumes than the dams could handle, is what we found out. Bel Air has no freeboard, and a 100-year or 1% storm will overtop the dam in Bel Air. It's pretty easy to get a 100-year storm anymore. Additional spillway capacity is going to be needed. They have made some recommendations for us in this study, but we know that it cannot handle a 100-year storm. The Elk Rapids Dam can handle a 100-year storm with about a ½ foot of freeboard, which is not bad. I mean, we can say, yep, we can do it. But just because you can do a 100-year storm doesn't mean you're not going to do a 500-year storm. And the need to begin long-term planning is going to be really necessary by all of us, because EGLE, which is the old DEQ, and the FERC licensing board are going to start upping the ante of what you need to have for freeboard.
I'm sorry, I don't know what freeboard means.
Freeboard, you have how much space there's left over before you top over. So you guys have 6 inches. 100-year storm, you're still going to have 6 inches to keep the water back before it goes over. Starts taking roads out, start taking whatever it needs to, because we know water is going to win. So we need to start planning. We all need to start working together. But you guys are in better shape than Bel Air is. So that's the good news. So I bring bad news, I bring good news. Our next steps. I need to start working with all of these municipalities that have no zoning or no staff, no office hours, etc. I have to start helping them be able to monitor and deal with the floodplain issues that they're going to be dealing with. Because if I don't, then mortgages aren't going to be let. I mean, if you're not part of the, flood program, nobody's gonna be giving mortgages, and that's not gonna look good for some of our smaller municipalities. So I'm gonna have to help, and I know they have no staff. And I know a few of our municipal offices have office hours every other Friday from, 9 to 2. So they're gonna need some help. So that's one of my next steps. I know that we're going to need to apply for a grant from Eagle. They have a dam reclamation grant program now that because of Edenville and the Wixom dams, they've got this dam program. I applied for this grant last year so that we could continue the study. We were denied because we were looking to do a study. We didn't have a problem. So we had to show, because it's competitive, I mean, can't say, hey, we're gonna go low, we're gonna take money away from somebody who might already have a problem. So I understand why we didn't get it, but now I know we have a problem. So now we're going to apply for them to do the engineering work for the spillway improvements in Bel Air. But I can't show I quite have a problem here yet in Elk Rapids. We still have 6 inches. Bel Air has nothing. So I want to expand the study to also zero in on Elk Rapids, because we need to do some more work here. But I also want us to hone in on Ellsworth, because I'm concerned. Ellsworth does not have the capacity to do it, and they're our partners too. I mean, we're all in this together. We're all part of the same watershed. So I think the next steps we need to do is we need to organize a meeting with all of our lake associations. And I think it's best, and I've been working with John already. I think he has nightmares at night that it's gonna blow on his watch. And I know he doesn't want that. None of us want that. None of us want any of it to blow. And it's one of those things that out of sight, out of mind. But I need this to be forefront with everybody. And I know that in order to ever move forward with this, I'm going to need the riparian owners of the entire Elk River chain of lakes watershed. So you guys are our best hope. Bob?
One of the complications just within the Elk-Skegemog area is 3 counties. So
My next slide.
Okay. I'll let you get to it.
Thanks. But we need to start working on this planning process. We really do it. We all need to be in it together. So let's see here. Okay, remember what I said at the beginning. I have the ability to assess and levy taxes. I don't see that I would be the most popular person in the world doing that. And also, there are 3 other counties involved. I don't have the authority over them. Maybe Bill has an idea of how I can eminent domain the other counties, but I doubt it. I just doubt it. And, Mark Stone made the comment last year when the original study was presented to the public that the riparian community is now in control of their own fate, and that the model and study are in the public domain, there are no constraints. But he was quite confident that the riparian owners will answer that clarion call for action, also stating that they shouldn't count on the government to do it all. But it is all of our problem, and I expect that I can count on our county commissioners to be our partners too. But we can't do this alone. So I say we do it together, and my first thing is, hey, how about a bake sale? Because, again, as I said, I can't go out and get a grant to study what may be, or we can't do that. We've got to figure out what our problem is first. Once we know what that real problem is, then we can go after grant monies that may or may not be available to us. So we have to be ready, and I can't think, again, of a better place to start than with these lake associations. So my mission is now to go and talk to each and every one of those individual lake associations, let them know what we know, and again, if anyone wants more detailed information, I'm not the one. They did not hire me for my engineering capabilities, I promise. But bake sales, I'm pretty good at. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, please feel free. That is my cell number. I might not answer it right away, but I will return your call. Sometimes I just have to go out on the boat myself and spend some time. So, especially after 9 years of 24/7 phone call where I could not leave my phone. Now, every once in a while, I get the ability to do it. I will field as many questions as I can. I might have to tell you I'll look into that or I'll talk to someone else, but I'm not an engineer. I can't explain all of the details, but what I do know is we have a problem, and it's our problem, and we need to figure out how we're going to fix it. Yes, sir.
Are there drain commissioners in the other counties?
Yes, there are. I know that the drain commissioner in Kalkaska, he makes $1,800 a year, so I'm sure that he's got way more expertise than I do. I know that one of the drain commissioners, because we just had a meeting early August over at, I hosted everybody over at the Elk Rapids Dam, and they came from Benzie, from Roscommon, from Kalkaska, and one of them made $180 a month. So they're not big positions. It's not like Oakland County, where they have a staff of what, 1,800 people? Because I see the drain commissioners' jobs in northern Michigan growing though as time goes on, and I'm really glad that I'm 63 almost, and I'm going to be retiring before this happens. But I see the job expanding because every easy lot to develop throughout our watershed is already developed. What's left is the tough ones. They're going to need engineered fields, they're going to need community septics, they're going to need water systems, they're going to need all these things that we don't really need along the water because we've got big enough lots to take care of what we've got and we've been able to maintain it. I see drainage becoming a problem because we're on the 40-foot parallel. One of the things I found out during COVID and throughout, we had the Emergency Operations Center activated. There were 40 to 80 people changing their address legally to Bel Air or to Antrim County during COVID. Because now we had the internet. They could work from anywhere. And as temperatures start to rise a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more, it's going to be cooler here. So I see people wanting to be here more so than ever. And that's going to cause problems. And so I say that during the next election cycle, we look closely at those people that try to be the drain commissioner and want that elected position because it's going to be important. We don't want development to run them. We want them to be working on our behalf, not on behalf of development. Because downstate, that's the way it works. Honestly and truly, it's a politicized job, and the developers are putting their campaigns, so it's just my thought. Sir, you had your hand up.
Yes, with the turbines, if the grid is shut down, how does that affect the passage of water through the existing turbine structures?
They have an overflow system that they can open some by hand. They can open them up, but it does make it tough.
The turbines do restrict.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
So the Elk River Dam has 6 inches, not 7 or 12 or 18
6
of freeboard.
by the model.
Well, just in the real world, I mean, we measured it, that's how much freeboard we have.
No, that's what happens in a 100-year event. The model showed that there would be 6 inches left.
Oh, it would rise up to within 6 inches of the top.
Yes, yes. George,
Leslie, what happens at the 500-year storm?
I don't even want to know. I haven't even looked into that. I've had it for 36 hours. Enough to be dangerous.
But the other thing about the 100-year storm, and you haven't read the full report, hopefully they address the other discharges to the Lake Michigan and the Bay, which is our bridge that has, in our Dexter Street, which has 2 culverts.
Which I know John is very, very interested in maintaining and making sure are in tip-top shape.
Right, but that's also how much head can those before the road is
Correct.
Kids Pond, et cetera.
And those will be some expensive fixes, and we don't want to we want to maintain them in the best working order, not fix them after they broke. Yes, sir?
So with the 6-inch clearance on 100 percent, what is the ability to understand the interior of the dam structure?
We need more information.
Same with still.
The question was, what was the integrity of the structures? That's not what they did, they just did modeling, so it would take additional studies.
Strictly a hydraulic study, not a structural, structure.
Yeah, no, that has not been done yet. That's what's next, that's part of our planning stages. Yes, sir?
Did they identify bridges and such in that study? Were there multiple as well? Like
This
the
last-
Torture Bridge or
This
the?
last study that was done focused only on specifically the 2 dams, because the original study did not include that. The original study looked at the Bridge Street, culvert in Ellsworth. It looked at Clam River Bridge, the Torch River Bridge. So it did look at it, but again, everything was all at constant at one level, so there's still more information to be found. Dave?
Well, what about all the sedimentation that's filling up Torch River and Red River? Will that have any kind of effect on it?
Well, they did model in there, in the original model, there was alternatives, and that's where I had the big stars that said, there's a lot more that has to be done before anything like that can be done. But no, not really. Just looked at alternatives as if it wasn't at the current level it is now, if it was deeper, what would it do? So, and that model, for those of you guys that, need something to do at 11 o'clock at night when you can't sleep, the model and the study is on the county website under the operator of dams. You can take a look at it. As soon as we get a draft taken off of the report that we just got, that'll be put onto the website too. And if any of you are real nerds and want to play with the model, come on in and I'll download it onto your computer for you. Yeah, we already had to talk. He could be one of those nerds.
One of the concerns that Mark Stone had raised that would, I think, potentially present problems before even a 100-year storm levels is that if you're getting a storm like that, the potential for having to shut down power production at the dam because of, for various reasons, is significant. And has that been examined?
Not to the degree that we need to. It's another thing, just as along with the integrity of the structures, it all has to be looked at even further. Right now, we've just looked at those models to give us some information. The one thing that came out of this is, Houston, we do have a problem in Bel Air, and we've got to do something about that right away. We've got a little more time, which is good, which gives us the ability to get organized, figure out how we're going to do this for Elk Rapids, because I'm sure we're going to find out some stuff we maybe didn't want to know. That's usually what happens when we study, isn't it? Sadly. But we're trying to do the very best we can. One good thing is I'm really good at writing grants. If the grants are available and we meet the criteria, I will not apply for a grant that I can tell you in 15 minutes whether or not we meet or not meet. If it only takes 44 seconds, maybe I'll go. So, anyway, yes?
One more question. So my mind is just simply on the dams they hold, and we're at 100-year flood. So my mind goes to flooding, erosion, communities not being able to get mortgages for floodplains, and then damages, I would probably, similar to your neighbor, traditional water line, septic systems, et cetera, are all
erosion's huge. And that's one of the good things that I know that the lake associations are doing, and doing very, very well. They're talking about native landscaping. And not only does it keep our shorelines from eroding, it also keeps the geese from pooping in our front yards. I mean, there's a lot of good things about native shorelines. Yes?
FEMA, we were under your floodplain designated by the Army Corps of Engineers. FEMA, what do you know about quadruple the flood insurance? What's gonna happen up here? I mean, they need the money from all of us to pay for the people who live in the floodplains down south.
The question was about the cost of flood insurance increasing. I am going to assume, based on your question, please stop me if I'm wrong, that your place where you were in the floodplain is not here.
No.
Okay, okay, downstairs, okay. Well, up here, I think we're pretty much going to mostly be a donor state to the entire country. It's still going to be maintained by the federal government, and those that do not sit in a floodplain for any mapping still have the ability to get flood insurance, and which is, some people do it because, I mean, a busted pipe or something can put water in a house and your insurance isn't gonna cover it. But insurance, I don't know, insurance is way different these days too now, I'll tell you. I got hit by the straight line winds that turned into the tornado in Gaylord because it came through Bel Air. I got about $38,000 worth of damage to my house. I am just now getting ready to receive that check from them. And they fought me every inch of the way about everything. I remember you used to be able to call the insurance company, tell them there was a problem, and they'd like, come give you their checkbook. Now, I mean, I have been fighting. My house sat without siding on it for, yes, since last May 20th.
Must be State Farm.
Yes. But the house looks really good now, I'll say that. So, you know, there's lots of unanswered questions that I wish I had all of the answers right now, but we still have to do some more studying. And I'm hoping that we can all team together and figure out the best approach and be proactive. I don't want to be reactive. I do not want Sanford and Eatonville happening here at all. Yes, ma'am.
So, listening to your presentation and being a property owner, for listening to your presentation, lots of bad things could happen, trying to maintain a little calm here. What has the folks here in this room, we're not elected officials, we're not engineers, is there something that we can do to help get the government interested or write letters? What should we take from this meeting?
I would say
Panic.
keep in close contact with your lake association. Look for their updates, because there's going to be a time that we're going to need everybody's word of mouth to get the word out there. Why are we going to ask for this money? Because not all of it's going to be able to come from grants. We know that. We're going to have to figure out how to do this. And as Mark said, again, it's going to be those lake associations that are going to help us convince everyone else, because I do not see them sending the drain commissioner off to do a complete countywide tax or levy. That's probably not going to go so well. But then again, can I force that on to the other 3 counties? No, we've got Charleroi County, we've got Kaskaskia County, we've got Grand Traverse County. So we got to figure it out. Fred, you got an idea?
Well, relative to the concern, I live on Glenwood. I'm downstream of the Gulf. You don't have anybody living downstream of the Gulf. The bay would have to raise a tremendous amount. So if you might lose Dexter Street, you know, and then of course the lake level would go way down if the dam structurally failed. So you have a problem with property values getting rebuilt. But I feel like we're more vulnerable downstream of the Bel Air Dam. However, the Bel Air Dam doesn't have a lot of pool elevation behind it. You've got all of Elk Lake. So if it does go, there's a lot of it. So you have to balance that out. And 100-year storm, Leslie showed 500 square miles of watershed.
Yes.
So these are theoretical events. It would mean like, I think it's 3 or 5 inches. But whether it's 3 or 5 inches, it's for,
The entire area.
it's for the entire 500 square miles. And we know storms generally don't have that width. That's not to say there won't be one. But it is a worst case scenario. I mean, you have to plan for worst case. But when we talk about more weather events, we're getting a lot of local events. That one, what was that, 21, we said, where we lost.
August of 21.
Where we lost Alton Highway. We had, on my rain gauge December plan, we had 5 inches in 3 hours, not 24 hours. But it was very low. It was like a cigar shape.
And there was only 3.6 inches in Lake Bel Air. So, yeah.
It was so the 100-year storm would be at 5 inches in 24 hours over the whole 500 square miles. So.
But it could happen, because we're seeing a lot of things that we've never seen before. Thank you very much. And again,
things like this are just wonderful to be able to bring to the entire ESTA membership. We have people here from the county, from our townships, from the village, and so I think our governmental units are looking at this kind of thing, and it's great that we're ahead of the curve. I don't think it should be something that we take as an eminent failure, but we are looking at it, and I think our elected officials are now able to see and understand, maybe a little more technically or less technically, but at least understand what has to be done and what has to be looked at. Nothing will happen overnight, but it's something that we now are all focused on, and as individual members, as riparians, there may be people out there that are living 2,000 feet from water right now, but when these flood maps come out, that may change. People may become riparians because of these storm events. So it's very important that we're focused on it, that you're all interested in it. We'll keep you involved. ESTA will keep involved. We, along with Three Lakes Association, the other associations here on the chain, we've all been contributing to this, both technically, manpower, volunteering, and also financially. So thanks to you, we're able to get this kind of information and studies done. So I think we should thank Leslie for not charging us.
for my $650 a year job.
How about a beer?